Hello, my name is Max and this is Uniquely Made. On today's video I'm going to show you how to access, disassemble and regrease the gearbox on this mini mill. First step, obviously, unplug the machine. Next, you want to remove these two screws to remove the cover. Remove the cap. Remove your drawbar assembly. And there is a hole here that when you stick something in, like a screwdriver for example, at some point it locks into a hole, now you heard it, on this spindle. And now you can take a collet wrench to unscrew this, but it's a left-handed thread, so it goes clockwise instead of counterclockwise. With that done, we're going to open the electrical box and then remove it from the main assembly. And in here are 3 screws that hold it to the spindle head. Leave that hanging for now. With that out of the way, we can unscrew these 4 screws here and take off this black piece. And now we can put the motor to the side. That's why we took off the electrical box. Now before we're going to tackle this assembly, we're going to remove this entire portion of the Z-axis. To do that, we're going to take off this screw. Then we're going to move the Z-axis in the highest position that we can. And then lock it tight. Now with the Z assembly locked down, we can remove these 2 screws to detach the air spring. Now this next part is a bit tricky. We're gonna have to loosen the Z axis and take it off entirely. This part is pretty heavy, so maybe get help for that. Let's start on this side. We're going to take out this clip, put it somewhere safe, then we can remove this handle. And there is one set stone in here. We want to save that, of course. And now we want to remove these 4 screws to take out the fine adjustment. There is the worm gear that drives this gear sprocket thing here. So you can also clean this. And you can take out this entire assembly. Remove this. And clean this separately. Now flip up the part. And through here are 4 screws that we want to remove. There we go, this part is done. And now we can look inside for the first time. I'm going to take out this. And now it would be good if you have something to put it on. We want to take off this screw here. If you had some super fine gear puller or bearing puller to get this off, that would be great. Mine doesn't fit, so I just gently wiggle it with 2 screwdrivers. And that comes right off. Another key that we remove and save, of course. And turn it around. And there's another clip here that we want to remove. Now ideally you'd have a press to remove these. I don't have one, so I'm just going to use a softer material, in my case aluminium, and gently tap these out of their bearings. And it really doesn't take a lot of force. This one removed. You can also take off this collet here. This just slides off. Now hopefully you can see this, but there is a set screw here that you can remove. Mine is broken, so I can't remove that. But luckily this thing just slides right out. This kind of fork. You can take that out, and then you can take this gear assembly out. So now the only thing left are the gears of the spindle, and I'm going to leave mine in right now and clean it as it is. But if you want to take it out, it is also relatively simple. Remove the key and then press it out or tap it out with a hammer, and obviously some softer material on top. So here are all the parts of the Z-axis. I already cleaned mine before this video because I already had to do it once to figure out how to do it so I could show you. But I just used soap and hot water to clean mine. You could probably use brake cleaner to do the same thing, but soap and hot water did the trick perfectly for me. Just remember to dry it off immediately after. Now to re-grease my gearbox, I'm going to use multi-grease. It is all-purpose grease. If you had like a super high-tech precision mill that you needed for producing profits, probably look into getting a more sophisticated grease. But for this and for my purpose, multi-grease is perfectly fine. For reference, for other countries, this tube costs me €3. So I'm just gonna generally apply the grease, not overload it, but make sure that every surface is coated. Now the reassembly is a tiny bit tricky, but it is not hard by any standard. So first, this part goes back in here. Then the gear that we took off and liberally greased goes in between here, and so that the big gear matches with the small gear of the spindle, because otherwise it doesn't work. And now the axle goes from the top through the gears. Make sure that you get the alignment of the key right. So now to drive the axle back through both bearings without the top one pushing the bottom one out and vice versa. So now I have a block of steel that has a hole in it that's about the same size as this axle. So I can place that underneath. Then on top I found this piece that I don't use anymore that can fit over here and still put force on the bearing. And now I can gently tap it into place. Now both bearings are seated. They can turn, connected to the spindle and the gears inside. But this is a bit far out. So what we need to do is, with one of these supports underneath, tap it out just far enough that we can put the clip back on the bottom axle. So hopefully you can see that, but the groove just appeared above the bearing surface. So I can put the clip back in place. And that side is done. Alright, we flipped it upside again. And I can put the little key back in. And now this brass looking gear on top. It's a good side and a bad side. That goes right over there. And now the little screw with the washer that was holding this in before. On this side we can reattach the handle. Just making sure everything still works. Put it on the front and reattach the second part. Making sure the orientation is correct, of course. Now when we flip it to the side, we can reattach the fine adjust and the Z-axis handle. With that thread, there's only two types of screws, short ones and long ones. Short ones go here, long ones go here. And in this step we can also reattach the cover. Now put in the last key, the handle, and there's a little spring-loaded ball on there, so you're going to have to give it a little whack. And cap it off with a clip. Okay, so the next part is pretty difficult again, so if you could get help for that, that would be ideal. What you have to do is you have to lift the assembly onto the Z-axis, then put the gib in there, and then tighten it down so it's stuck in the upright position. Now you want to lower that assembly just enough so this block sits flush with the surface. So about here, and then lock it down again. And now we can attach the screws. Almost done. Now we can reattach the motor. I just noticed I forgot once again to reattach the green plates, so I'm going to remove this screw again and put them in. So the last things to do are to reattach the parts of the spindle and the stopper up here. Once again, remember this is left-handed. Okay, actually I forgot about the electrical box, but that's the last thing to do. And that's it for this video. I hope it helped some people. I know I would have liked to have one of those videos because I didn't really find a good step-by-step one, so I decided to make my own. If you have any other problems or suggestions about this machine, please let me know. Until next time, have a great day.